This is Souhan Unfiltered.com. I'm your host, Jim Souhan. We are live at The Local, one of my favorite bars in Minneapolis. I'm sorry, Josh, one of my favorite bars in the world. I love Irish pubs, and the fact that you guys brought all this stuff in from Ireland to build this place, I've always loved that. I am here at The Local with Glen Perkins, Twins closer, and Josh Petzel, the local general manager, and Sean Bernard over there running the board. Before we get to Glen, Josh, I'm going to be here, I guess, every other week. I'll be here every Wednesday, and then every other Wednesday I'll be at Kieran's. Tonight we're lucky enough to have Glen Perkins here live. 2 weeks from now, December 17th, we'll have Roy Smalley, one of my favorite baseball storytellers. Next Wednesday at Kieran's, I will have at 5 o'clock Gary Louris, the great singer-songwriter, the leader of the Jayhawks, come on and play some music and talk about sports and music. And I'm looking forward to this, Josh. Thanks for having us.
No, thank you guys. I'm glad you guys are here tonight.
Glen, I see you've already gotten a beer. I'm impressed. You got the beer before you spoke a word on the network.
I mean, you walk in here and it just
it says Guinness, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's a natural fit. I park like 2 blocks away, so I got a little cold walking here, and then get inside. It's nice and warm, and get myself a Guinness.
Josh, tell me about your joint.
Well, just going off of what Perk was saying there, really, as we like to say here at The Local, you never get a good idea after a cup of coffee. So that's why we always started out with a pint and kind of see where it goes from there.
Sucks. I always drink 8 cups of coffee before I write.
That's exactly it. The Local, obviously Irish pub, you hinted at that. We've been here for a while, and actually it's going to be our 17th birthday here in a couple of weeks. So I guess we'll get to go to our movies pretty soon, which is a good start. Went through a few remodels along the way and a few little transformations and some great opportunities that we've had. We've launched some product out of here. Obviously, Kieran went off and did his thing with 2 gingers, and really we just try and have a fun time every single night here.
And I know you have a million big screen TVs. Do you favor European football?
I'd say that's a pretty safe bet. We've been heavily involved in that program for about 10 years now, quite frankly, and it's really blossomed over the last, I'd say, 2 World Cups, especially as high def has become more the norm. And you beat down here when the U.S. is playing a game, and it's easily 400 or 500 people in the place all cheering. It's an unbelievable atmosphere.
Perk, have you gotten on that bandwagon yet? European football?
I haven't. I enjoyed the World Cup. I actually watched a little bit of it, and I think a lot more people did. I think a lot more people got involved and kind of got into it this year. I didn't make it downtown to watch any games with other people, but I did watch a little bit on TV. I'm still on the edge, but I know that it's going to be back in a couple of years. And I think if the U.S. team is ever a little more relevant, then I think more people, and myself included, will be involved.
I think just the interesting thing about soccer, and I've grown up here in the U.S. and being a sports fan, the biggest difference I've noticed really is it seems to be more of a communal activity, and what I mean by that is more people come down to the pubs to actually watch the matches versus many sports in the U.S. People have parties at their house, or they have gatherings at their house, or they'll just sit with a couple of buddies and watch a game, whereas with soccer it really is come on down to the pub. There's kids here, there's adults, there's a whole mix of people all down for the actual experience and not just the game itself.
Well, it's funny. Perk, have you ever been to Ireland?
I have not.
I haven't either. I had a friend tell me that he just decided one time, I got to go to Ireland. He's like working somewhere in Europe, and he had some time off. Said, I got to get to Ireland, see what it's like, play golf there. He shows up at a great golf course, can't remember which one, 5 a.m., waits for the doors to open, says, I'm at your mercy. I just want to play some golf. They send him out, let him play 36 holes for free. At the end of that, the caddy says, where are you staying tonight? He says, I haven't even thought about it. He says, you stay with me. We'll go down to I can't do an Irish accent. Even though I'm Irish, I'm very Irish. My middle name's Patrick. We'll go down to the pub. We'll have dinner. You stay with me. So he takes them out to the local pub. They sit there and drink. And entire families go to the pub there. They gather around. Somebody plays music. They eat and drink till about 10, and then he went and slept at his caddy's place. That is kind of the quintessential Ireland story as far as I can tell.
Really, and that's the foundation of the local. I mean, that's where the term comes from, is going down to your local, and that's where we got the name from, and that's the feeling that we really want to emanate as well for people when they walk through the door.
All right, well, thank you, Josh. Appreciate it. And now I get to beat up Perk for 50 minutes.
Thank you. Gentlemen, have a great night, and if we need to carry him out of here, just let us know.
We'll get him a ride, I promise.
One way or another, huh?
Thank you, Josh. That is Josh Petzel, general manager of the local. Now Perk's in for it. He has to talk to me for the rest of the hour. Now, I saw your wife, Alicia, tweet something about 9 years today.
Today, actually, believe it or not, is our anniversary. And as I said before this started, she left for Florida today. So happy anniversary to her and I guess. But it's funny, last year, our 8th anniversary, I left for South Dakota to go hunting, and this year she went down to Florida. But, 9 years today. It's hard to believe, and we got an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and time flies. I tell you what, it's been fun. But I look back, she tweeted a picture today that I didn't even know she had anymore. I wish she didn't have.
Of you with the beer?
Yes, a Dos Equis beer.
Amazing they caught you with a beer.
I had a buddy text me and say, "What's up with this? You don't look of age." I said, "Yeah, I was 21 and a half years old." And he said, "Well, what's up with the Dos Equis?" I said, "I was 21 and a half years old." So I think he got that, and but yeah, it's been. She's been there every step of the way, which is really cool, because we started dating in college, and then all along through the ups and the downs and everything that we've gone through in baseball and life and all that, she's been there. So it's pretty special.
I saw that tweet and I thought, oh God, either I'm going to be in trouble or you're going to be in the doghouse. Yeah,
no, I know, and you know what? It's just one of those things. I think next year will be a little more special for us, being 10 years. I think I'll take her somewhere nice, but. This year is just an anniversary, and they're always special, but we still have lives to lead and things to do, and, I'm happy to be here.
So you're a Minnesota boy, born, raised here, played high school baseball here, chose to go to the University of Minnesota, get drafted by the Twins. I'm assuming she's a Minnesota girl?
She is, yeah. She grew up in Lakeville, and then she went to Minnesota. She transferred to Iowa for a semester or something like that, and then she came back, and then we met, and the rest is history. So she's probably more Minnesotan than I am. She likes the winters a little more than I do, and she grew up in a hockey family. I didn't grow up as a hockey fan, and so I've kind of gotten used to that and learning about hockey, all those good things. So she's got probably a little more Minnesotan in me than I do.
How'd you guys meet?
In college. She knows better than I do. Apparently, this is another ironic story since we're here and beer and all that. Is the first time I met her, we were having a keg race in college, and where we would get 2 kegs, and the pitchers would drink one, and the position players would drink the other one, and whoever finished first won. And apparently, her roommate was dating one of the guys on my team, and she showed up with her, and I don't remember it. So. That was the last time. I think that was the
That's
last
so
time
romantic.
I had that much to drink, but it's been all downhill from there.
And I've been covering baseball since like 1993, and I've seen a lot of different kinds of relationships in baseball. You see the relationships where you can tell that the spouse is really interested in the fame or interested in being with a ball player, and the career ends and things don't go so well after that. I sense you're a different kind of guy than that, and I'm guessing you end up with someone who is very rock solid.
Yeah, she is. And I mean, we joke sometimes that where would I be had I not met her and she kept me in line? Because especially early on, I was a little bit crazy. I was a little bit wild. I grew up with a lot of freedom and parents that kind of let me learn on my own, which I was thankful for, and learned a lot of right and wrongs by trial and error. And, but you get drafted, and, I signed for a lot of money, and then you get paid a lot of money to play. We always joke that I'd probably be laying in a ditch somewhere had she not came and got me and kept me going in the right direction.
I always wonder, I went to journalism school, started off working in the industry, and, I like to go out and drink. And sports writers especially young sports writers, like to go out and drink. And I always wonder, if I had been an athlete, would I have handled it well? If I had been an athlete, had a little bit of fame or a little bit of money, would I have handled it well? Because I'm not sure I handled being young and broke well. Would I have handled being young and fairly well off?
Yeah, I mean, and I think I probably handled it as well as I could, and a lot better with her being there, because, I mean, like I said, it would have been real easy for me to get off track. And, the free time that we have of whether you're in the minor leagues on the road or you're in the big leagues on the road or whatever, you have a lot of free time, and if you don't have someone there kind of keeping you grounded, I would have been one of the guys that probably got off track. And I had her, and the other one that I always had was Terry Ryan. Oddly enough, was always on me, and I always kind of had I think he had a special place in his heart for me, and wanting to make sure that I made good, and the connections that we've had going back to high school, and just the whole thing. He really wanted to make sure that I worked out, and so he was on me as much as Alicia was. So thankful for both of those people for making sure that I've gotten to where I am. I mean, it definitely wouldn't have done it without my wife, and I doubt I would have done it without him either.
It's interesting thing because in modern sports, you see people just not take care of themselves, and it affects their performance, and they go downhill. And yet, baseball history books and all the books I read growing up about these guys drink until 3 a.m., then go out and getting 5 hits. And my theory, I'm interested in your perspective on this, is that it's harder to get away with stuff in the modern era, either because of the schedules and the travel and the weariness, or because of the attention.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably as much as in the attention. I mean, it's you can still be under the radar, I guess, more or less. But when you're with a group of guys, even if you're in a city like New York or Chicago, I mean, if you're with a group of guys, everyone's dressed well, you can kind of tell that those people have money, people pay attention, people see, and you never know who's looking. You never know, take a Delman Young thing. I don't think people would have really known anything about it, but he's walking down the street by himself and he gets in an altercation and it's on the front page, and that's kind of that thing where you always have to be careful. You always have to pay attention. And like I said, having my wife just to make sure that was a little extra, motivation for me to behave and to do the right thing, just because not wanting to disappoint her parents, my parents, the family, the twins, all those things, but having a foundation, it has helped me a lot, because I just know it wouldn't have been very hard.
Yeah. Torrey Hunter just finished his introductory press conference here, and I didn't go just because I was busy and because I'm not a huge fan of press conferences. It tends to be a place for TV people to stand up and get their station on the air. It's not really serious journalism. You don't get many good questions asked. But I covered Torrey from his first day as a professional athlete, through his entire Twins career, and I've made it plain he's like one of my favorite athletes ever, one of my favorite people ever. I know you guys crossed paths. Did you get to know him very well?
Yeah, I did. And, I was a rookie, I guess, 06, and then in 07 when I was on the team. I was there the whole year. I was hurt for 100 games, but I was around and really connected well with him. And he's been one of the guys. I mean, I only played with him for just over a season, basically one season. And he's been a guy that every step of the way, every time I've seen him on the field on the other side, I always said hi, I always talked to him, stories about family and just, catching up in those things. And there's been other guys that I played with longer that I don't. And he's just been a guy, and I don't know if it's just how he is, if it was that he saw something in me or like me, or just if we got along well, but he's always a guy that when we would play the Angels, when we would play the Tigers, I look forward to seeing, look forward to talking to. And it seemed like once a series I'd meet him out behind second base and we'd chat for a while. And, we did right there toward the end of the season. I think we played him in September, and I chatted with him there. And, so I'm excited for him to come back. I'm excited for him to be in the clubhouse to hear his voice and to share some of his influence. And he's still got a lot to offer, I think, on the field, off the field, all those things. So it's going to be exciting to have him back and in the mix.
One of the reasons I love your perspective is you're both a sabermetrician and a realist. You crunch the numbers, and you also understand that it's a game played by human beings, and there are a lot of other elements as well as the numbers. Numbers are important, there's no doubt, but there are also other factors. You look at the Twins coming off 4 bad years, and the changes so far have been to the manager, to the coaching staff, and to bringing home a guy who's at the end of his career who isn't a great player at the stage of his career, but is a great personality. Given all that, how much better do you think the Twins can be?
I mean, I think we can be a lot better, and I think that as much as anything, there's another year where we went through last year and saw guys come up. I think more than we did in the 3 previous years. We saw guys come up that you can start saying, hey, this guy's going to be good. He's going to be here for a few years. It's not place fillers. It's not holdovers. It's not guys that are just on the team and on a 40-man roster because we need a body. It was Santana and Arcia and Vargas and the list goes on of guys that came up, and you say this is going to be a guy that's going to be in our lineup for a long time. And as much as the coaching staff, as much as having a guy like Torrey in the mix, those guys taking steps last year, getting time to play, getting comfortable, all those things, just getting at bats in the big leagues and improving as the year went on is going to help as much as anything. But I think all those things, you put them all together, and it's going to be a disappointment if we're not playing meaningful games in September. I can promise you that.
The guy who really impressed me last year was Santana, and what I heard behind the scenes was he was just a very professional guy. What was your impression of him?
One of my favorite players, I think, young guys that I've played with in a long time. He was quiet, but he worked hard. He had a good sense of humor. Actually, his personality in that, it reminded me a little bit of Liriano, where if you got to know him a little bit, if you got under, past the shell, that he's funny, he likes to make jokes, he likes to goof around, but he comes off as very serious, and he got put in a tough situation last year. I think when he got called up, I don't even particularly know if they wanted him up yet, that they probably wanted him to get some time in AAA and get some seasoning, and he ends up getting forced in. Then he ends up getting put in center field, and he handled everything better than a guy that has 10 years in the big leagues would have handled it. It was amazing to see his growth throughout the season, especially doing something that he really never did, and at a level that he wasn't prepared for. But he prepared himself. He worked hard every day, and he did everything and more that he could to make sure that when he went out there that he did well. And it was super fun to watch him play, and you could see it early on. I mean, when he came up and he had some at-bats, you could see how quick his hands were. And so I knew that he wasn't going to get beat. He wasn't going to get fooled. He doesn't chase pitches because his hands are so quick. So you could see that he was going to have some success. And it was almost one of those things where when he started playing, you're thinking, man, how did this guy not do more in the minor leagues with what he's got? But he put it together in the big leagues, and it was awesome to watch him. I can't wait to see him, for a full season this year.
It's interesting you bring that up because there are players who perform better in the big leagues than they do in the minor leagues. And, frankly, you go back and look at Torrey Hunter's minor league stats, he struggled at every level. I'm not sure he ever had a completely dominant season in the minors, and yet once it clicked, he became a great major league player. Is there a reason some guys are better in the majors?
I think Torrey's another example of a guy that the book on pitching to him was don't throw him curveballs. Don't throw him something that is slow, that starts out high, because he's going to sit on it. You can throw him sliders, you can throw fastballs up to him, and you can throw breaking balls in the dirt, and he would chase if you executed a pitch. But I think what guys like him and guys like Santana is, the more guys are around the plate, the better chance they have. And in the minor leagues, it happens with guys where they're not seeing pitches around the plate, and they start to chase, and they expand a strike zone, they do things like that. And then you get a guy in the big leagues where it's more, if you miss, you're missing with an intent and a purpose in a certain count, and not just misfiring. And so you see some guys really that don't have much plate discipline, that don't have much, contact ability, those things, it blossom in the big leagues. And I think Torrey, I don't know, like you said, his minor league stats, I haven't looked back that far, but he's a guy that if you stayed around the plate, he was going to hurt you. And if you did try to throw your slider in the dirt and you left it up, he was going to hit it. And so if you stay around the plate, those guys, if you keep the ball around the plate, and in the big leagues the ball's around the plate more, they're gonna have a better chance, and they don't have to expand their strike zone because they're seeing more pitches closer to the zone. I believe that's probably what happened with both them guys. Santana for sure. I mean, I saw it. I saw it last year. He the quick hands, the confidence, and then he just didn't expand his strike zone. He got a pitch to hit, and he hit a line drive.
I want to ask you about fan anger. I remember having a conversation with Dave St. Peter, the Twins president, back in maybe 09 or 10 or something. And, it was just off the record BSing. And at some point he said, we have an entire, and we, meaning he talking about the Twins, have an entire generation of fans who've never seen a really bad season, who've never seen 3 bad seasons in a row. At some point, it's going to happen. And now that it's happened, what I find is the anger toward your organization from so many people I encounter or hear from on the internet or see in comment sections, whatever. It's gotten to the point where I'm not sure you guys could do anything other than go to the playoffs and win a playoff series, something to win them over immediately. I'm wondering, do you sense that, or is that just kind of a newspaper guy's perspective?
I mean, I have an odd perspective on this team and this organization, being from here, and I've been with the Twins now for 10, 11 years, whatever it is, and I've still been a fan longer in my life than I've been a player. Yeah. And so I still have part of me that's a fan. And so I can see, on both sides of the coin. And I think that if there's anger, I think it's deserved, and we haven't gone out and played well for 4 years, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating as a player. It's frustrating to see the team go out and struggle from a fan's perspective. I still watch those games when I'm in the bullpen and we're losing. And I know I'm not going to play. I'm watching as a fan, and it hasn't been fun to watch. It hasn't been fun to be a part of, and really, I think that if we can go out and perform well, if we can play well, if we can play up to the level that we want to, that we expect of ourselves, and where I think we'll be, in September this year, there's going to be fans. They're going to be happy. That all they want to see is a team go out and succeed. And we've gone out and tried hard, but that only gets you so far. And at some point, you got to take trying hard and turn that into winning games. And I guess it's always better to have anger than apathy.
I was going to say that.
And so as long as fans are interested, as long as fans want us to do well, and have an opinion, that's good. And hopefully we can take that opinion of us going out and not having success and turn that into people loving us and people wanting to see us play.
It's a good point, because I remember in the mid-'90s it got to a point where people just didn't care. They just didn't care. They didn't come to the ballpark. They didn't care if you had a winning streak. This baseball just died, and it really stayed dead until the 2001 season.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I was there. I was part of that. I was born in '83, so from the time I was 16, that was '99. In high school, I shouldn't say this, but every couple of weeks we'd skip school and go watch a Twins game. Yeah.
No.
We'd forge notes. We'd leave. It was $5 to sit in left field. And then it was dollar dogs. It was weekday. It was like Wednesday or Thursday game.
At Chuck Knobloch?
No, I ate them all. I'm not throwing hot dogs away. You can go there with $10 and get a ticket and 5 hot dogs. But I remember that. I remember just going to those games and loving it. But I also remember paying a couple bucks and going up and sitting in right field just trying to catch batting practice balls and not caring what happened in the game. And I guess maybe because I kept playing that I didn't lose my passion for baseball. I hope that if there's kids that see us struggle, that they don't think, well, I don't want to do that anymore. It's good. If kids keep playing and hopefully we'll win, and that obviously drums up baseball for the whole state. If a team is successful, then kids grow up loving the Twins. They grow up loving baseball, and we need kids playing baseball. So hopefully, there's more kids like me out there. But hopefully, it's also just team. They still like to come watch us play, and hopefully we can give them a reason to like us more.
Obviously, at this point, people probably realize this is SouhanUnfiltered.com. You can find it at SouhanUnfiltered.com. My next podcast is going to be with Chad Greenway of the Vikings, and I ended up talking to him about just how he's a little like you. He's a Midwestern guy who's settled in the Midwest. He wants to live here the rest of his life. He's raised kids, very down to earth. And, we're coming off the Matt Khalil incident where a fan was heckling him and he knocked the guy's hat off, and it turns into this silly little story. And I asked Chad what it's like to, live here year-round, be a part of the community, and deal with the fact that you are a public figure who's trying to be a down-to-earth guy. And he basically kind of described it the way I've heard you describe it before. But what is that like? I mean, is it hard to do?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I guess for me, I try to do things that anyone else would do. I go watch my father-in-law's hockey team play. I'll go eat at a restaurant. I try not to do anything differently than I would had if no one would recognize me. And I always say one of my biggest pet peeves is if I'm somewhere and I got people staring at me, and then I get home and I see a tweet, oh my gosh, I saw Glen Perkins at such and such. I want you to come say hi. Even if I'm sitting there with dinner with my family, just stop over and say, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Good luck next year. I hope you feel good. I hope your arm's all right.
I'd want to eat your fries. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, whatever. It's just I'm no different. That's the thing that bugs me the most. Just because I play baseball, the way I look at it is I live here. I'm a Minnesotan, and I drive to work every day just like anyone else does. I just go to a baseball stadium instead of an office. But I'm not being an athlete doesn't make you any different. So I like interaction with fans. I like interaction with people. So I really dislike it when people don't. I hate nothing more than when somebody stares at me from across a room. Just come and say hi. I ain't gonna bite your head off. I feel like I'm a pretty friendly guy, and it's not too much to just come over and say, hey, how's it going, and then move on. But it's really not that difficult. You just go about your day the same way that you would normally, and it's all part of it. I mean, it's all part of what I signed up for when I got drafted and decided to play baseball is all the good and the bad that comes with it, and you just like we talked about earlier, you just got to make sure that you're not doing something stupid that someone's going to write about on the internet.
You mentioned Terry Ryan earlier, and obviously I've known Terry since '93, and he's really had almost the highest of highs and lowest of lows as a GM. I think he almost got fired about '98 or so, and then he started making the trades that turned the franchise around. He had a decade of success. He retires briefly, now he's back, and now he's trying to turn things around. He's been through almost everything. It strikes me that how many people I've talked to have described him as a father figure or someone they respect as much as anyone, because that just doesn't get said about that many general managers or boss figures in sports. Doug Mankiewicz, when he came back to the organization, I went down the minor league side and sat with him, and he was saying, Terry Ryan's my second father, and it's not that unusual to hear players say that. What is your perspective on him, and what's your relationship with him like?
I think throughout my career, there's always been a little birdie on my shoulder. There's always been a thought in the back of my head, of something, when I'm on the field, when I'm on a team, wherever I am, anything to do with baseball is what would Terry think? Would this disappoint him? And you'd never. He is a father figure because you don't want to disappoint your parents. I don't want to disappoint Terry, and even when I went through all this stuff in 2009, 2010. He wasn't. That's when he was on his leave, and he wasn't part of the organization, or he wasn't, a visible part. I always, throughout that whole thing, the grievance, the fight with the team, all those things, I always made sure that I never went too far because I didn't want to ruin that side of it. I didn't want to ruin my relationship with him. And even though he wasn't there, I always felt like he still was, and I always felt like he was watching me and not judging, but just paying attention to what I was doing. And there was always that part of me that thought, don't take this too far because you're going to piss Terry off. and he wasn't. I mean, for all I knew, he was nowhere to be found. He could have been sitting on his porch in Egan, watching the woodpeckers peck the tree. I don't know. But there was always part of that. It was always in the back of my head that you want to make him proud. He gave me a chance, in 2004. He drafted a 6-foot pudgy kid that threw 90 miles an hour in the first round.
And now you're a 6-foot pudgy kid who throws 98.
Well, he guessed right. I mean, but he always believed in me, and so I've always wanted to reward him for the leap that he took for me, and he's stuck his neck out more than once for me. I know that, and I'm forever grateful for that. And even when Torrey had his press conference today, I was listening to the beginning, and he spoke a little bit, and he said the same things about Terry that. He's a guy that you want to play for, you want to work hard for, you want to make him proud, and I think part of it is that he's so unemotional that you never know if you are or not, but you keep working, you keep trying to do the right thing to make him proud and hope that he takes notice, I guess. But there's always, like I said, there's always been a part of me that's played for him.
It's interesting you mentioned him being kind of stoic, because I did a previous podcast with Rob Antony, and Rob was saying that in the booth during games, he's not stoic. He said everybody in the organization knows how to mimic the Terry Ryan glass flip. The kind of, oh, shit, glass flip. I can't believe my pitcher. Rob even said there'll be times when he'll be sitting up in the booth, and the Twins starting pitcher will go 3-0 in the first batter, and Terry's like, oh, this guy ain't ready. He starts throwing stuff. He's pretty good at being stoic in public. He's not that great at being stoic in private. You brought up, the 2009, 2010 stuff. Finally agreed to this against the team. I was covering the team at that point. And I don't want to put words in your mouth. Can you just describe what it was like to go through that, and where, and how, if that even helped you get where you are today? Yeah, I mean, I actually remember kind of when I was. It might have been the 2010 when I sat down with you over on campus. Yeah. Was it Sally's? You remember that? Sally's, yeah. We and you were really the first one that I had talked to about that, and kind of when that was the first thing that I ever said that was really public about the whole thing, and so. I mean, it was a difficult time, but you go through things, and I wanted to fight for what was right, and sometimes the fans, the media, teammates, whoever it might be, don't agree with what you're doing, but I don't know if anyone ever knows the whole story. They know the whole story, and I knew the whole story, and so we went to battle, we fought, and obviously I wasn't completely in the wrong in that situation. Because I wouldn't be here if I was. Mm-hmm. I know that there was some part, and that's why I think Terry, did he have a part in that? Did he have some
talk to them and say, hey, don't give up on this kid. Let's work through this. I know what he can do, type of thing. I mean, maybe he was there for me in that, but I know that I will never say that I was completely right, but I will never say that I was completely wrong. And like I said, that's why I'm still here today. Is that I think there was fault on both sides. And the important thing is that we worked on it privately. We got everything hashed out. We settled our differences, and it's been 4 or 5 good years since then.
Sometimes I get accused of being a shill for the Twins because there are people I really like and respect in the organization, and I'm not going to change that opinion just because you're having bad seasons. I still think incredibly highly of Terry Ryan, and now there's a manager in place who I think incredibly highly of. I covered Paul Molitor as a player, saw him get his 3,000th hit. I covered him going to the Hall of Fame. When he first signed with the Twins, we went on a car ride during the dead of winter. We went on a car ride at like all the key places in his life around St. Paul, the sandlots he played on, Cretan High, all that stuff. Paul is the smartest baseball player I've ever covered. Tell me what you know about Paul, being a Minnesota kid, and what you think it'll be like to play for him.
I mean, I know a lot about him. I've known him since my freshman year in college in 2001. He was around a lot. Early on then. I think he had taken a hitting coach job for 1 year. Yep. and then got out of that and was around with John Anderson and over with us with the Gophers for a few years doing base running and things like that. Tell you what, it's going to be interesting to see how it translates as manager. He is the smartest baseball person I've seen. Mm-hmm. This is a podcast. I don't think we're on a time limit, but I'm not going to tell you every story I know about him and how
only limited to like 3 or 4 hours. They close down here after a while,
and all the things that he sees on the field and does. But a couple good examples of Paul are. I think it was 2 springs ago. We got half the pitchers are doing bunting, half are doing base running, and I'm thinking to myself, this is stupid. I would rather get my running done and go inside. Because I ain't ever going to bunt and I ain't ever going to base run. And if I'm out on that field, something went terribly wrong, and it ain't going to happen. So we did the bunting thing, and I got my bunts down, did all that, and then we go to the base running thing, and he starts talking, and I was enthralled. It was like 10, 12 minutes where he was talking about, when you're on first base and you're getting a lead and how to run to second base, how to know where if the ball's hitting the gap, and then you get to second base and know that if a pull hitter's up, that the left center gap is going to be pinched a little bit, so you may not be able to score from second. But if he hits the ball to right center, if there's a lefty up, he's saying if Joe Mauer's up and he hits that ball over the shortstop or he hits that ball up the middle, they're going to be pinching there, so you can't score there. You gotta all these things that go through his head when he's out on the field. When he was out there teaching us as if he was running from second base. Going through all these examples, and it was like 8-10 things that were going through his head so fast that I got all of it, but there's no way I could process all that going on. And I've heard stories of him as a base runner, how good he was. I don't think he was ever very fast, but he was a great base runner.
He was pretty fast when he was young.
And how Robin Yount, I think credits him, said I would never have 3,000 hits if it wasn't for Paul Molitor.
Yeah.
And having him at second base, I think tipping signs or passing stuff in or whatever he did, but doing baseball things. But it was that one, and then last year I'm sitting in the dugout. We're in Chicago at U.S. Cellular, and I'm sitting next to Phil Hughes in the dugout in like the 4th inning, and we're jabbing with Molly a little bit, and he stops. He walks up on the top step of the dugout, and sees the pitcher, the lefty, come set, and as soon as he comes set, Paul yells over to first base and says he's throwing over, and sure enough, the guy picks his leg up, throws over, and it was a bang-bang at first place. I think Santana was at first, and it was bang-bang. He was safe, but he had shortened up his lead. And then Paul walks back down the steps toward Phil and I again, and we look at him like, "Are you serious?" And he looked back at us and goes, "What?" Like, ho-hum, no big deal. And it's just a couple things just like that just stuff comes to him. And hopefully, as a manager where he's got a lot more going on, he'll still be able to use that. I think as much as anything, though, is in between games, the way he'll be able to coach players, and I think the way he'll be able to take charge on that field, in between games, in spring training, all those things. We're gonna be a pretty good, well prepared team.
Yeah, I have a Molitor story for you, and Paul was gracious enough to be my first guest on my first podcast, and I asked him about it. It's like 98. It's like August in Baltimore. Hot, sweaty, terrible. It's as bad as it gets. Like 100% humidity, 90 degrees out. A really meaningless game. Twins are out of it. It's like 0-0. I think it might have been Messina who always killed the Twins back then. And Molitor's on third base late in the game. Again, I think it's 0-0. And a pitch comes in and ticks off the bottom of the catcher's glove and comes to rest right between the catcher's feet. Okay? Molitor breaks immediately and scores standing up. Because in that time, Molitor recognized that the catcher would not know where the ball was, that the catcher was going to stand up, turn around, look for it before he realized it was his feet. Then he was going to have to reach down. Then he was going to have to turn back. Molitor scores standing up. And I asked Molitor about that play, and of course he remembered it in much better detail than I did.
Yeah. He was also like 43 at that time, and so he probably wasn't horribly
He was
fast.
almost as old as me, and
Yeah.
he scored. I would have needed like a walker and a cab to score on that.
I might be faster right now than he was then, but
Woo, I'm going to tell him you said that.
I'm not saying I'd score. He'd love that.
It's interesting you brought up the fact that Molly went over and helped work with John Anderson. I know you've become really. Now, have you become close with John Anderson, the Gophers coach, or were you always close with him?
I always was. He's another guy that is a father figure, that is a guy that tries to motivate you in a way of not wanting to disappoint him. He's in that same mold. And obviously playing for him, and when you have success there, the run that we had the 3 years I was there, winning the Big Ten every year and that, I think I was always in his good graces. But after I left, not a lot of guys come back. And I think even more so, if guys have success doing something, if guys, in the big leagues, it's easy to forget where you came from, all those things. But I've been back there basically 4 days a week from December 1st to February 1st for 10 years. I've seen those guys more and spent more time with those guys in the off season and in the winter than I did when I was a player. And so in the last 10, 12 years, whatever it's been, I've definitely grown closer to all those guys. It's funny now because so much of who I am is what I learned when I was there with those guys. And so I can go there and I fit right in. I get along. We have great conversation about everything. But yeah, it's been a 12-year, whatever deal of getting to know those guys better and becoming more comfortable, all those things. But they're again more guys that those voices that I have in my head that when I'm doing something, it's is this going to make everybody proud? And they're in that group with my family and like I said with Terry and the Twins and then those guys. It's those people that you double check yourself because there's a lot of people that you want to make happy and so I try to do what I can, but they're on that list.
Sean Bernard is going to interrupt me with a question now.
I am just because I'm such a huge baseball fan. So who was the game-changing coach when you were a kid that had you throw the first time? Or maybe it wasn't even the coach that had you pitch for the first time, but who was your big life-changer coach when you were growing up?
You know what? My dad coached me all the way up, I think, until I got like to junior high or whatever. But there was never really a guy. There was a guy by the name of John Ruddy who was a pitcher. He pitched like on old men's leagues and did that kind of stuff. And he was around our baseball teams when I was in like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade in there. And I did do some like pitching stuff with him and some mental stuff with him. So he was probably the one that really made me love pitching. But then getting to Minnesota and all the things that I did with the Gophers and the lessons I learned from Todd Oaks there, it probably more than anyone. I still think he's probably had more of an impact on my playing career than anyone has. But there's been a few along the way. And I guess, like I said with my parents, they never really pushed me in a direction. They kind of let me figure it out, which I loved. And so it was they were never saying you have to do this, you have to do that. It was just the best way for me to put it is that I started playing baseball whenever 5 years old or whatever it was, and no one's ever told me to stop. I've had a lot of people help me along the way, but there's never been like the one guy that was like pushed me more than anyone else, but no one's ever told me to quit.
Just a quick follow-up to that. Was there a progression with your ability, or did you have a big breakthrough aha moment where it was like, oh my God, I've got this?
I don't need to toot my own horn, but I was always good. I played up a few years, like I play a year ahead, those things where that doesn't really ever happen.
Yeah.
And you know, so I would always have success. I think the first time I ever had great failure was like in 2009 with the Twins or 2010 in AAA, where I really failed for an extended period of time. I mean, it always come pretty easy. So I was always ahead of the curve. I was always one of the better players on every team that I was on. Pitchers, not players. I mean, I'm terrible at everything else, but I could throw. I always threw hard. I think I was like in 5th grade, and I was like, they called me like Rifleman or something. So, I mean, I always had a good arm. But, you know, there was never really one moment, I guess. I mean, when I came back from being terrible in 2010, then 2011 when I started throwing hard and thinking, man, I can, you know, I learned how to pitch when I was throwing 89, 90, and now I'm throwing 95. I think I could be pretty good.
That's great.
You mentioned your workouts earlier. You and I had that conversation, I think, at Sally's that one time. You know, you aren't one of those guys who is going for the beach body. You try to do effective exercises. I mean, no, I'm serious. I mean, Sean laughed at that, but I've covered guys who cared more about looking good at the beach than having the functional strength or the core strength that helps you in baseball. I mean, like I covered Marty Cordova. Marty was a tremendous young player. He was a wonderful young player, and he could do it all. He could run, he could hit for power, he could drive in runs. He was a good defensive player when he first came up, and then all of a sudden he was bigger and stronger and looked better and wasn't half the player. So what's kind of your workout secret?
I mean, really, my thing is just doing little things to stay healthy. I mean, it's nothing spectacular. It's nothing groundbreaking. I try to not beat myself up. Really, I try not to overdo it, which I think I'm pretty good at. I like to spend time with my family. I like to do things, other things that I love outside of baseball, and then I do enough baseball stuff where, you know, I missed a little time last year. I missed a little time a couple years before that, but I think I've thrown like 260 games in the last 4 years. So yeah. I'm staying healthy, and that's the most important thing for me is just when it's my turn, take the ball and go out there and play, and it's not trying to look like He-Man. It's not doing anything like that. I want to maintain my body in a way that I can go out and perform for the team when my name is called, and that's really it. It's you know, I guess my main theory is try to do something every day that's some sort of exercise.
Well, I'm kind of the same way, and just as an old beat-up sports writer, I just try to do things that don't hurt. That's my new workout strategy. I work out hard, but if something hurts, I just don't ever do it again.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really it. Like I said, I don't want to break myself down, so I try to do things that don't make myself hurt, that don't wear myself down, that doesn't make me. I don't need to feel sore. I don't need to be sore to feel like I got a good workout in.
We are live at the local. This is Jim Souhan with Glen Perkins, the Twins closer, on Souhan Unfiltered.com. We have previous podcasts with people like Paul Molitor, Rob Antony, Mike Grant, Craig Leopold. Coming up, podcasts with Chad Greenway. Next week, Wednesday night, 5 o'clock, Gary Loris, the frontman of the Jayhawks, who's doing solo stuff right now, will be with you 5 o'clock at Kieran's. 2 weeks from now, and every two Wednesdays from now on, 5 o'clock at the local with Roy Smalley, who's just a great baseball storyteller. Let me put you on the spot here. What's your favorite beer?
Oh my gosh! I mean,
I knew this would be a tough one for you.
You know what? We'll open up a whole other can of worms. Maybe this will get us off talking
cans of beer.
Talking about baseball because it's December. You know what? I mean, I got a Guinness right now. I love Guinness. I always go back to Spotted Cow, and I think part of it is that you can't get it here, so it's you know, it's scarcity.
Yeah.
And so my parents live on the border of Minnesota and Wisconsin. My brother lives in Wisconsin, so whenever I see them, I get Spotted Cow. But at the beginning of the offseason, I started brewing my own beer.
Did you?
Yeah, and so I've actually I cloned a Summit.
Is it called the Rifleman?
No, absolutely not. I cloned a Summit Extra Pale Ale a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
And so the only beer that I've bought at a liquor store since like mid-October is some Summit to compare the two beers. And so I've actually been just drinking my own. I made a brown ale. I did a chocolate milk stout.
Oh, I love stout.
I did the Summit. I've done a couple Spotted Cows. And, man, there's one more in there. Oh, I did one for my brother. It's his Christmas present. I hope he ain't listening, but I made him a beer.
Of course he's listening.
I made him a beer for Christmas, and I only bottled him a case, and I saved the rest for me. So, I started doing that. So really, I mean, anything that I can brew. I have a Guinness in the fermenter right now, like a Guinness clone, and that's in the fermenter right now, and that's got 2 more weeks in there, and I got to put it in a keg and let it sit in the fridge for a month. So that'll be ready around Twins Fest. But anything that I can make, I guess right now is more what I would prefer. But I can never, like a place like this. I mean, I could not drink anything other than Guinness in a place like this.
This is the best. I love this place.
But it's that. I guess if I'm somewhere else, probably something like a Summit. I mean, I like something with a little hop, not too much hop. I think I got over hopped with the Surly a couple years ago and kind of got sick of that. So I try to keep it a little smoother, and I do like a stout. I mean, if I can find a good stout somewhere that's not a Guinness, I'll try that too.
My father tried to make his own wine when we were living in Maryland, and so we come home. I think we came home from church one day as a family.
His feet were purple?
Pardon me?
Were his feet purple?
No, actually, he made the kids stomp the grapes. but really, he tried to make his own wine, and he put the fermenting wine in kind of, I guess, our pantry, right? And so we come home from church one day, and the dog staggers out to greet us. What had happened was the wine he was trying to ferment exploded, leaked into the dog food. The dog went in, ate all the dog food that had the wine in it, and the dog was drunk for 3 days.
The dog loved it, though.
The dog had a great time. The dog really wanted munchies at that point, though.
Yeah. So what I did, the last one I did now is I did a vanilla porter, and you'd speak of this, the wine, and it
vanilla
made me think.
porter.
So I did a vanilla porter, and I bought a 10-gallon whiskey barrel from a place I think it was in Delaware. It was some internet. It's called Sons of Liberty is the whiskey company. I think they're out in Delaware, Rhode Island, somewhere out east, and they sell their so the American whiskey, they can only use the barrel once. That's like a whiskey thing. So they sell them, and people will use them for decoration or
just lick them
or whatever. Yeah. So I bought one of those. So I got that, and that's in a fermenter, and that I got 10 gallons of that, and that's going to go in the barrel right before I go back down to Florida for spring training. So that's going to go in the barrel. Some people say it only needs to be in there for like a week, but I'm going to leave it in there for 2 months plus and just see what happens when I get home. So I hope it doesn't explode. But I think I'll have an air trap on there, so it won't get too pressurized, because I think that could happen. But I wouldn't want to get home from Florida after 2.5 months and see a whole bunch of beer all over the basement.
No, it'd be a waste.
Yeah.
I would call that a waste.
Now, don't worry about the mess. It would just be a waste of beer.
It's a waste of beer. That's what I'm worried about. Yeah. One more baseball question, then we'll get into some quick hit stuff that might be fun, at least for me. You're buddies with Joe Mauer, and Joe is a lightning rod for this organization. He's been an MVP. He's won 3 batting titles. Before the injuries, he was on an arc to be one of the great catchers in the history of the game. And obviously, last 4 years, he's had injuries. He has not always been durable. He's still produced pretty well. He's been healthy, but he has not been on the field as much as he would like. Just give me your big picture take on Joe Mauer. I know he's your friend.
I mean, well, you want my take as him as a friend or as a baseball player?
One after the other.
He's awesome. He's a Minnesotan, and so I think we have a connection just there. We did the hockey rink at his house last year, and so I got to spend some time with him doing that. I've gotten to help him out with the kids a little bit when Maddie needs a break, so that's fun. Seeing him as a dad is fun. I think seeing anyone.
Does he ever yell?
No. They were so little you can't. They're too little to yell at them. You got to wait till
but if he ever does, you have
mine,
to
8
tell
and
me.
6. Yeah. No, but I think anyone seeing someone, especially my age, like I've had kids for so long now that it's just like second nature. To see someone like Joe, I mean, 30 years old, he's had everything.
Oh, geez, Maddie.
In his life,
that the diaper again.
Well, yeah, but he got drafted out of high school, got paid a ton of money. He's had the career. He's always just. I mean, he's by no means selfish, but he's always thought about, him and what he needs, what Maddie needs. It's I want to sleep in today, so I'm going to sleep in. And it's funny to see the transition of a guy that is 30 years old, where all of a sudden he has to put other things first. And it was awesome to see that. It's really fun to see that, because it's such a different perspective, and you think, man, like I was there.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier now. I mean, mine are 8 and 6. Like, they go to school. Like, I'm still, like, from 8 in the morning when I drop them off at school till 3 when I pick them up. Like, I can do whatever I want. And if I want to go back to bed, I can. And you know, so to see someone kind of live by someone else's schedule is a lot of fun. And then as a baseball player, I mean, my gosh, I think part of it, he set the bar so high that I don't know. I mean, that 09 season was one of the, I mean, I think it was the best offensive season for a catcher ever.
Yep.
So, I mean, you know, to think that a guy is going to go out and do that every year is a little outrageous. He's been a really good player. I mean, he's been every year. He last year was his worst year, and it was still better than the league average. I mean, he was still above average big league hitter. He just wasn't what he had done every year, and I feel bad for him because he can't do any right. He's in a tough spot. I mean, you don't. It's easy to say, oh, the guy gets paid a ton of money. He's got 2 beautiful kids and a beautiful wife, and gets to live in Minnesota and never going to have to worry about anything in his life. But it doesn't change the fact that expectations are you know, really for us as baseball players is trying to live up to those, trying to continue to play at a level that you're accustomed to is the hardest thing that we have to do. Which it just because that's our hardest thing doesn't mean that it makes us any less or any weaker than someone else. You know, than a person living on the street tonight when it's 15 degrees. I mean, it's still a difficult situation. It's not easy. It's not easy for him, and I feel for him in that respect. But he does a great job handling it. I mean, all in all, you know, a lot of people, I think, if they were in his situation, would lose their mind, and he can handle it. He's built for it, and he's done a great job with that. But I mean, as a teammate, as a guy on that team, you couldn't ask for anything more. You really couldn't. I mean, and he is who he is, and you need guys like him just as much as you need a guy like Torrey Hunter to get up and yell in a clubhouse. I mean, you need all those parts, but on the field, I mean, he's still one of the best. I mean, he is, and he's been one of the best for 12 years now or whatever it is, and you can't take that away. And I think he probably learned a little bit last year about what it takes to, as you get older, just like I did. I mean, you learn that you got to do some different things. You maybe have to do a little more in certain areas, and you learn that as you go along. And I think, you know, if changes aren't, if he doesn't make changes, if I don't make changes going into this next year, the same thing's going to happen again. And so we don't want that. I don't want that. He doesn't want that. I know that. So, you know, you just keep working but I mean, he does what he does what he does, and he's one of the best. He's a great friend. He's a great guy in the community. All those things, and he's a great guy on the team. He really is, and he's just an easy target. Somebody they pick him, and because he's quiet and he won't talk back, and
he makes a lot of money.
He does. That
puts the target on his back.
Someone talks about me. Someone says something about me on Twitter. I'll get back at him. Mm-hmm. You know, I'll go right back at him, because if you're going to talk to me some way, then you know, we'll go to battle, and that's just fine. And he's not going to do that, so it's easy, because he'll just take it, and he may not even see it, but or care or whatever, but I mean, he won't fight back. Some guys will, and he doesn't, so it makes it an easy target.
All right, 1-sentence answers here. Your favorite TV show or movie that you've seen lately?
I just started watching How to Get Away with Murder.
Is good?
My wife and I started that a couple weeks ago. It's fantastic. I think it's like every other show, though. They're good for like a year, maybe 2, and then it's like, when's this thing going to end? Like, the same stuff keeps, like, something, the next thing always happens. It's like, I would like a show to go like 3 years and just be like dynamite all the way through and stop. Kind of like The Wire. The Wire is my favorite show of all time.
Tell you what, I love The Wire, and I told Greenway this today. He was asking for recommendations. Justified.
I don't even know what that is.
Unbelievable.
So your coworker Joe Christensen is the one that told me to watch The Wire.
Yeah.
So we opened in Baltimore. It must have been like 2012.
And I lived in Baltimore too.
Yeah. I think we opened in Baltimore, and I just remember he was out there covering us. It was 2011 or 12, one of the two. He's covering us, and we were talking one day, just shooting the breeze, and I think I had just finished a show or finished something. He says, "Hey, have you seen The Wire?" I said, "I haven't." And he goes, "You got to watch The Wire." And I finished the what is it, like 6 seasons? I finished it in like 3 weeks.
It's unbelievable.
I just watched it nonstop. Unbelievable show. But that never got old. Like it was never like there was like a storyline, like almost
Yep.
like they knew where this thing was going to start, they knew where it was going to finish, and no matter how good it was, like shows they'll have success, they'll win awards, so they just keep them going and just make stuff up as you go along, and I like a show that just it has a starting point. They might even work backwards in the wire. Who knows?
Yeah.
But that show is written to perfection with a storyline that made sense all the way through, and then it ended. It ended even if it was still good. It just ended. Like it didn't keep going. So that's my all-time. But the How to Get Away with Murder is pretty darn good.
The Wire is the most impressive TV accomplishment I've ever witnessed. Justified is my favorite just because sheer entertainment value, writing, sense of place. It's unbelievable. Watch it. Favorite song or band?
Man, you know what? I know you're a big music guy. I keep hearing you plug the Jayhawks. I don't listen to music.
That's weird.
Yeah. I'm a talk radio.
You'll have to come out and hear my band sometime.
I'm a talk radio geek. And so I listen to talk radio. And that's really it. I mean, I like probably, if I was going to listen to something country, probably just say Zach Brown.
He's really good.
Something just easy to listen to, but I'm a sports radio guy.
Answer these two questions. People yell at me on the internet about.
I've been pretty lucky lately.
Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot to complain about right now.
All right. Answer this one. I was wrong about.
Jeez.
See, I would have 8 million answers to this question, but you probably only have like one or two.
I guess we just talked about it. I said last year on the radio that Maurer hit 20 homers this year, so I was wrong about that.
Okay. And last question of the podcast. Favorite teammate of all time?
Oh, jeez.
Or you can go with top three, top five, whatever.
Oh, man, you'll probably never have me back on for saying this one.
Uh-oh.
You know who it is.
Uh-oh. Bring it.
It's Kevin Slowey.
That is awesome, Kevin Slowey. And for the listeners, Kevin Slowey and I don't exactly get along. I've hammered Kevin Slowey for a lot of things. Maybe I went overboard. And
I'll tell him you said that.
But the fact that you like him actually makes me reconsider my opinions on him.
I tell you what, there was just something. I think we're so different. We were so different and had so many different opposing views that we got along well. And I think he's such a smart guy that you can have a conversation with him. But he. We have very different views on the media, which was something that we always talked about. Like, he never got, why do we have to do interviews? Why do we have to talk to people? I love doing it. I wouldn't be sitting here at the local on my anniversary.
You don't have to do this. I know.
But I like doing it. So, it was just tough. We had such differences that we were able to talk about him. And he's a smart guy. I'm a smart guy. So we had great conversations about that. We've stayed close. I haven't played with him since 2011. We've stayed very close since. And, he's a new dad too, so he's another one that I love seeing, having to live by someone else's schedule. So, but yeah, it's far and away. It's not even close.
That's funny. It's interesting. Well, it does make me view him in a different light. That is Glen Perkins. Glen,
I'll get him on. Do you want him to come on?
I would love it. No, seriously. You know what? If Kevin wanted to have a conversation with me, I'd give him complete benefit of the doubt.
He loves music.
Well, we could talk music.
There you go.
And
all day.
And I'd let him rip me.
Books.
He could rip me all he wanted. I'd accept that. That is Glen Perkins. I really appreciate you coming down. This is my first night at the local. I wanted to get a big name like Glen Perkins.
We did it
down here, and we did it. I appreciate that. Thanks to Josh Petzel, the general manager of the local, for having us here. Again, next week at 5, Gary Louris of the Jayhawks at Kieran's at 5. 2 weeks from now, December 17th, 5 o'clock, Roy Smalley telling baseball stories here back at the local. We'll alternate Wednesdays from now until I'm Sid's age. This is a part of the Live and Social Network. You can find the podcast, as you've probably already figured out, at SouhanUnfiltered.com. And Liz O'Connell has won a $25 gift card for winning some kind of outrageous stunt contest that we had going on during the podcast.
She really just had to retweet or, check in on Facebook, and that's how we gave it away.
Okay, well I wanted to make it sound really
stunt.
dramatic. I wanted to make it sound like a Japanese game show where they have to jump off big red
That's an
rubber
idea
balls
for
and stuff
next
like
week.
that. Next week.
Yeah.
I think we should have Perk do that.
Oh, he'd love it.
No, we just said I don't do things that are going to get me hurt.
Yeah, that's smart. You're right. I'll do something. How about I do stuff to get me hurt?
Yeah, we'll
my
do that.
body doesn't matter.
We'll do that.
My body, I've already offered to donate to science, and they've rejected it, so I can do whatever I want with it. Again, thank you to Glen Perkins, thank you to Sean Bernard, thank you to Josh Petzel and The Local. Talk to you next week. My next podcast is Chad Greenway, which will be up by Friday, I believe, and then next week will be Karen's at 5 o'clock with Gary Lewis. Thank you.